Just so you know what's going on here behind the scenes, a little commercial break. I'm like with the control room right now reading every line of Michael Cohen's plea. Does he not have to say everything? It's very exciting. The story continues to develop, as does our understanding of it. That does it for us tonight. I want to get back to reading the plea agreement again. See you again tomorrow. Now it's time for the last word with Lawrence O'Donnell. Good evening, Lawrence.
Good evening, Rachel. And I have something else you probably haven't read yet, which is the President of the United States has tweeted. This actually looks like it was typed up by the staff. It's basically a Fox News transcript. He quotes Greg Jarrett, speaking on Fox News.
Wait, it's the President quoting the Fox News guy?
Yeah,
okay.
a kind of legal commentator on Fox News, and this is Greg Jarrett talking. He's given over the entire real estate of a presidential tweet to Greg Jarrett, saying this demonstrates that Robert Mueller and his partisans have no evidence, not a whiff of collusion between Trump and Russia. Blah blah blah. Goes on like that, and Donald Trump's only original material in this tweet is actually not that original. At the very end, he says, a total witch hunt with an exclamation point. And so that is where White House comment stands at this hour of what is, I think, the worst Thursday in the history of the Trump presidency.
I mean, what happened today is isn't just backward looking in terms of all of the things that the president lied about and tried to cover up, and now his lies have been exposed and the cover-up has been exposed, and it turns out it's a criminal cover-up. It's not just backward-looking in terms of like, whoa, this isn't the way you said it was, and whoa, when you were praising Vladimir Putin throughout the campaign and everybody thought that was unusual, maybe you should have mentioned it's because you were trying to do the biggest business deal of your life with him at that moment. Right? It's not just backward-looking, it's forward-looking in terms of what this means about Mueller's evidence, Mueller's cooperators, who Mueller is able to now put on the stand, what type of information he's been able to get that every investigative reporter in the world looking at this stuff hasn't been able to get. I mean, this portends a whole new world of Mueller and Mueller's collusion evidence being put on the table in a way we've never seen before.
And maybe the single biggest question at the end of the day is this the part of the Mueller case where he can show perjury by President Trump in his written answers? Whatever did the president put in writing something that contradicts Michael Cohen about this Russian Trump Tower deal? And that's what makes Emily Jane Fox so fascinating in your last hour. That discussion, the timing and her reporting for us that this happened relatively quickly.
Within the last 2 weeks, which matches exactly to when the president turned in those written answers. If the president turned in written answers that basically gave the same lies that Michael Cohen had previously been trying to get away with, the Mueller's office knew at that time they were lies. Then they make their decision that they're going to go ahead, put forward the evidence that those are lies. The president has already made his submission. I mean, they've got him.
Yeah, and so the clock may have started ticking tonight on a chapter in history which will end with the United States Senate having to decide in an impeachment trial, is this perjury enough? Is this because if there is a perjury here, if Donald Trump has put perjury in writing, according to the special prosecutor's analysis of the evidence, based on what Michael Cohen has told him, if that is what the special prosecutor is going to report, a Democratic House of Representatives is going to have to move on impeachment if that happens.
It's also going to shine a very harsh light on the decision by the president's legal team that they would have him would negotiate to the ends of the earth to make sure that the president would only have to put his answers in writing, rather than speaking them out loud in his usual word cloud sort of way.
Yes.
I mean, the president speaks so elliptically, that might have actually been a pretty good way out of a perjury trap, because he never quite says anything declaratively. It might have possibly, I mean, that's the way that he's gotten out of lots of depositions and lots of legal proceedings in the past. In this case, by insisting that he would only give his answers in writing, if his answers are lies, they've got him in writing, and there's no wiggle room there.
Yeah, and the president's legal team thought they scored a huge victory by limiting the questioning to matters involving Russia.
Yeah.
That was their huge tactical win. They don't get to ask about Comey or obstruction of justice. And, look, Mueller accepted our deal of only questions in writing about Russia, where, for some reason, the president's lawyers thought they were on safer ground.
Yeah. And the other part of this, too, that I think is now a question, not just for the president, but for everybody who had knowledge of this, everybody associated with this business deal, including the president's children, who are executives in his business, unfortunately, at this point, which is there was an overt effort to create a false public story about the Trump Tower Moscow in terms of how long it went, in terms of with whom it was being negotiated, the direct involvement of the Kremlin. There was a truth about that, which apparently Mueller now has evidence of, and there was a false public story created to block that truth from becoming known. And that has now led to criminal charges against Michael Cohen, because part of that cover-up was him lying to Congress. But those claims were also made over and over again by the president and by other people associated with the president in public. And anybody who was part of that cover-up knowingly should have to answer for that now. And we have a pretty good idea about who inside the Trump organization associated with the president did know what really happened with that deal. Why were they all helping sell this lie about it?
And they sold the lie to American voters during the presidential campaign in order to win the presidency.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that is on the president because it's his deal, it's his culpability, but it's also on everybody else. That's a criminal conspiracy that potentially that would involve everybody else who had knowledge of the truth of that matter.
Yeah. Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Lawrence.